Guys, how are we doing? So welcome to what will be the very start of a long line of stories coming from men that I'm currently working with. And I think it's important to share these stories because I think it's important to understand we're not alone in the world with the struggles, with the overthinking, with the overwhelm, with everything else that we kind of encounter as a guy. Whether you're a business owner, full-time employee, unemployed, whatever your situation is. So this is story one. And I've got my man Raj here from the Elite Squad, which is our pinnacle small group coaching program. Raj, what's happening? How are you?
Hey, I'm very well, JB. Very well. The sun is shining. Yeah, life's good.
So Raj just went on Brecon Beacons with me the weekend just gone, where we met up for the weekend and we kind of connected with some of the other lads as well. How you feeling after that? How was that event for you?
It was just what I needed. It came at the right time. Yeah, just to get more focus, clear my head, and yeah, I'm feeling really, really good.
Good man. So listen, tell me your story, just so people get an understanding about your background. Then just maybe in brief, in the next sort of 3 minutes, kind of giving people a bit of a background about what made you need to start leading yourself a little better.
It's been a very, very tough, good few years. I'll probably say about the last seven years or so. It all started when my dad had a big heart attack, dropping the kids off at school, collapsed on the playground. His heart stopped for 10 minutes. That was a very, very scary moment. Went to hospital and he was in intensive care for a couple of days, but thankfully he came out. He needed a quadruple heart bypass and he's alive and well today. So that was a big shock for everyone. And then the following year, my niece, who was 3 years old at the time, started getting a bit yellow in the eyes, went to the hospital. They said she's got a liver infection. They did various scans and tests and they said, we need to find a donor because her liver is deteriorating. If you don't find a donor within 7 to 10 days, you better start planning a funeral. And that we were like, what? So again, thankfully, we found a donor and she's alive and well. And yeah, very lucky to have her here.
Amazing.
And then after that, my wife got diagnosed with stomach cancer and she was told that her days were numbered pretty much. Couldn't do anything. And then 9 months later from diagnosis, she passed away. It's actually 4 years today. It was her funeral.
Wow.
And my kids at the time, my eldest daughter, she was 9, my middle daughter was 5, and my little lad was 3. And that was a very, very challenging time. Lots of ups and downs since then. I had many things planned, especially on the business side of things. And when I came across your audiobook, and I thought, this guy's talking sense, you know. And then I Googled you, found your website, found that you're doing a 5-day free course, did that. I thought, right, I'm in, I'm all in. So joined the mastermind and now I'm in the Elite.
That's a journey of trauma, right? That's a real journey of trauma.
Yeah.
2 success stories and coming out of that trauma. And then obviously one life-changing, life-altering devastation, right? Talk me about that moment or the weeks that passed when she died, about your future and what was going on in your head.
It was you could see her deteriorate, and even the children, you know, could see her deteriorate. The nurses would come to the house. And it just got to the point where the doctor said, we can't do anything. We advised sending her to a hospice, and we were like, no, she's coming home, because she had spent a good, about maybe 4 or 5 months in total at the hospital and away from the children. And everything's going in your head, thinking we had major big plans to move, get a bigger house. And it was in September time, and it was my son's first day at school. We'd spoken about this, saying we can't wait till all of them are at school, then we've got more time to go for coffee, lunches, spend a bit more time together. But the day it was first day at school. She was literally on a deathbed. She couldn't even move. She couldn't even get out of bed. That was a very, very sad time for all of us. And you could see the pain on her face. But it was just a week after when she was in and out of sleep. Breathing was very, very shallow. And she took her last few breaths. And there was at 11:30 at night. And in the morning, when the kids came down, they expected to see her. They walked into an empty room. And I had to tell them, one by one, that Mummy's now gone, to God in the sky. And my middle daughter, Ravani, she was like, so how did Mummy go? I was like, well, God said, come on, Mummy, it's time for you to come up now. But before you do, say goodnight to your children. And she was like, how did Mummy go to the sky? I said, oh, she flew. And she was like, can we FaceTime Mummy? I was like, no, Mummy's left her phone, and her phone is literally there on the mantelpiece. I was like, nah, can't do that, Ravani. And I just hugged her and I just burst into tears, but I tried to keep it really quiet because it was a manly thing to do. So to show the children that, no, I'm big and strong and I am both Mummy and Daddy now, so I can't show any weakness.
Wow.
Yeah. So and then it was like the funeral, and then like in 2 days' time, it's going to be her birthday. She would have been 39.
Yeah.
But we celebrate, her life that she had here, and we celebrate birthday. We celebrate Mother's Day.
Do you, when you look at that situation, do you often look back and think, how did I get through that?
Yeah. I was in a robot mode. I just went into this mode and I just carried on. I thought, I've got to do the washing, the cleaning, the cooking, school runs, homework, bath time, and you're just on autopilot. And it's only been this year, I'm thinking, I haven't actually grieved properly. I may have grieved here, there, only for a short amount of time. But I look back and I think what I went through was actually a really, really traumatic experience. We had just celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary. We were together for 14 years. And I'm thinking, that's it. It's all gone. How am I going to raise these 3 children? And you just go with the flow. You can have these structures in place, but doing it yourself, it just doesn't work.
No. And you must have really, so we had this chat, didn't we, on Saturday? So I challenged you in terms of saying, I don't think you've grieved when we were talking about it. And I've never lost anyone like, family member that close. The small inkling I had was my dog, which was Digby, but was like a son to me, and that hurt a lot and still does. So I kind of 10 times that and imagine it being your wife or your child, and you kind of think to yourself, wow, God, that is big pain. And you go through, I imagine that you go through a transition of identity and a transition of who you are, but maybe with putting so much emphasis on being mum and dad at the same time, that along that process, you become very hollow in terms of emotions and feelings and future and business and where you see life going. Was that the case for you?
Yeah, 100% it was. There'll be times when I'll just sit in the car after going to a meeting and I'll just scream, I'd cry, compose myself, then walk in. Make sure the kids are all right, they've been fed, watered. There was a time where, because we've got hand printed, when their babies are born, you can get their hand and feet. Yes, we got a few of them, and I remember waking up on Boxing Day, just hugging it. I think it's my first Christmas without her. And then again, you snap out of it, think, right, okay, got to be there for the kids. And I look at them, and I still do, especially, my little boy, he's 7 now, and I still do feel for him. He has no memory of his mom. So we show them videos and pictures, but at the time, you just do have different phases. You fall in and out of how you're feeling. You're crying the next minute, and then you'd be like, no, come on, because the children are your strength and your weakness at that time. but your emotions are all over the place.
You said something that was quite interesting earlier, and you said that you didn't want to cry in front of the children, and you had an ego thing to try and stay strong. And I remember you saying that on Saturday as well, and us talking about actually how important do we feel it is to show emotions to our children now, to allow them to break down their wall. You know, I had a really great conversation with Josh Connolly about resilience, and resilience being flexible. Okay, so rather than that hardened bricked wall, right? Because when we do break through that, it just explodes. And actually having some flexibility to actually grieve. And I know that you had before you come up, you all had a cry, you all had a breakdown, and you said, man, that's the first time I've allowed myself to grieve. Or
literally was, yeah. First time ever I showed any emotion in front of the children. The only emotion that they saw was when I was frustrated. I would lash out and then I'd get angry. Why you not pick this up? The washing's on there. This that was the only time, but I never ever cried. And when it was on Monday, 4 years, first time I ever cried in front of the children, and they all cried. So we all had a good sob together.
how powerful was that?
It was powerful. It did feel good, the fact that, you know, they didn't see me as weak. They still saw me as a dad, whereas we're all being conditioned by society and culturally for men especially, no, you don't cry in front of your children. You know, you're seen as weak.
So where do you feel like you've built that internal system where you couldn't allow yourself to cry in front of your children over losing your wife?
Just from seeing social media. I've never seen my dad cry.
There you
So
go.
never seen my dad or any male figures around me. I've never seen them cry. And I thought, right, yeah, then I can't cry in front of my children.
And I think I might have mentioned this to you, or I certainly did it on the video today, was that we have to break that stigma, right? In terms of, like, if we want our children to express themselves. And I think when we hold emotions in, that's what causes an awful lot of like mental health issues and emotional troubles and connection and connecting with other people, because we've become uncomfortable about showing our emotions, right? But whereas if dad can have a cry, but that also shows an element of vulnerability and upset, but strength and character at the same time, then it's okay for me to do that. And talking more. And I think since I've known you, since you work with me, it's really building that inner strength, isn't it? It's like building that acceptance that I don't have to be the warrior, like who with armor and a shield and a sword and a spear. I don't need to be that guy all the time. I can be the cushion where kids need to embrace and sink into me and allow themselves to cry. And you need to have that vulnerability as well, right?
Yeah, and it's backfired on me being like that, because over time, when Nim passed away, I've always been strong, tried to put structures in place, being positive, and it's had a very good impact on the children, because you look at them. I went to parents' evening shortly after their mum had passed away, and the teacher said you wouldn't know as if like their mum had just passed away because they're so strong and resilient and positive. And I said that's down to you. So it's positive in that sense. However, over time, if the kids hurt themselves, like, what are you crying for? Come on, your arm's not broken. Crying doesn't get you anywhere. And I have to kind of like hold back and say, no, this is where they need a hug. Yeah. This is the way you just let them cry. I think I've forgotten how to have fun and laugh again.
Yeah. I think a lot of men do, because it's all doom and gloom, right? Everything's doom and gloom, like media, social pressures, childhood upbringing. You know, I look at when my dad died when I was 6, and I never really grieved, I would say, until the last couple of years, which is crazy, right? You know, and I think my mum quite openly turned around and said she pretended it didn't happen. So because she pretended it didn't happen, wow, I pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Face reality, right? So then I look at you, and I'm quite open with everybody, you know, my vulnerabilities, my insecurities, my overthinking, waiting for the next thing to go wrong, always waiting for someone to disappear out of my life. And, you know, that often affected relationships as you grow and build old, right? And one of the messages that we always have with the Man Coach movement is to lead you to lead them, right? So, and that means them seeing your strength and your character through tough times, but also like what we've spoken about, that vulnerability. So how long would you say you've been with us now? You must be looking at you started this year, right?
Yeah, April.
So if you coming in at April, I know that for an awful lot of progression for you've since remarried, right?
Yeah, last July, and got married again.
Okay.
So it's a very busy household. So I've got 3 and she's got 3. So it's mayhem, but it's good mayhem.
When you were looking for a relationship, was it not on your cards to go, right, no one with kids because I can't handle anymore?
No, the thing, I wasn't even looking. So I've been very, because when you lose a partner, a loved one, you haven't got that person to talk to anymore.
Yeah.
If I had any issues, my way of letting it all out was through my laptop. So I wrote quite a few articles. Someone had shared my article and she had picked it up and she contacted me saying, look, I'm divorced. I need a will because this is what I specialize in will writing. I went to meet her. We did not even talk about the will. We met for about 4 hours. We just hit it off straight away.
Wow.
So it wasn't even a plan. People had said to me, "No, you're young. Your kids are young. Get married." I was like, "No, my focus is the children."
Yeah.
But you know, but here I am.
As a way of sending people into our lives at the time that we need them, I believe.
Yep. 100% guardian angel.
Did you find it difficult to reconnect with another woman?
It wasn't straight away, as in right, we're together now, we're dating. It was just friendship.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how it all started out. And plus, she's got children, I had children, and I thought if the kids don't get on, then we may have to just be friends and not go any further.
Yeah.
But they're inseparable. The kids are literally all inseparable.
And does that make you feel really secure within family life? Does that do you feel like since you have remarried, since you have really connected with leading yourself better, you know, do you start to feel like, man, I feel like I've got an element of purpose and direction again after that trauma? Do you feel like you're starting to find it? I don't think we ever fully get there, right? I think it's always a constant evolution, but do you feel like you're starting to find a little bit more purpose in life after that trauma?
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember 7 months after Nim had passed away, and we were driving, and I said to the kids, "Okay, kids, look at that house. Shall we get that house?" My daughter Navi was like, "What's the point? There's only 4 of us now." And I was like, "Damn!" And that hit hard. Yeah. I thought, actually, what is the point? But now I moved house in December last year. We've got a bigger house because obviously we need a bigger family. And I do find more security, that purpose, and more excitement. Okay. I think that I've got that person, these people around me, to plan our future with.
Okay. So what would you say today are your biggest struggles that you face? Kind of like what are you battling? What are you working on for you to feel like you're leading yourself the way you want to?
I'm the type of person where I will do lots of different things at once and get overwhelmed and then just take a step back and I don't know where to start. Okay. Yeah, that has been the biggest issue. I've taken on too much and think, all right, I can't handle it. Now what do I do?
Is that because you're a entrepreneur and you run your own business? Do you think that's through like the obsession that we have as an entrepreneur? Because when we're an entrepreneur, right, I think most slip into that obsessive nature of, man, I want to build this, I want to grow this, I want to get this going. Do you find that as a reality for you?
Yeah, it's called shiny object syndrome, where you see a fly getting sucked into that blue light, and then see the other one, and you just don't know where to put your focus on or where your energy, until you're doing lots of little bits of things, but it doesn't get finished.
What's
So
the advice to that?
this is where you need that support, because my head is full of ideas and I try and implement it, but I'm like, okay, no, focus one thing at a time.
Yeah.
What is going to be most beneficial? Right. That is your non-negotiables. You focus on that. If somebody else comes in with an opportunity, you say, no, it doesn't fall in line with what I'm looking to do.
So you're building barriers.
Yep. And saying no, not just to others, but to yourself as well.
Like that. Who suffers when you don't have barriers? Who suffers most, and how?
I suffer the most. But if I suffer, then the people around me will suffer. If I'm not in a good headspace, I want to take it out on the people around me. If I'm in a good headspace, I've got good energy, then the people around me will have good energy as well. And it happens. You can see if you're in a bad mood, the kids are walking on eggshells around you.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Dad's in a grump.
Yeah.
I love it. What's your
Yeah.
vision? What's your vision for your future? Like, how do you see your future going?
Since I've been part of the elite, it has changed. It for me, it was mainly like a financial goal. And but then after you said something, how much do you really need to
Share
live
what
off?
that was. So, to put this into context for people listening, we were in Birmingham, right? And I said, and I asked you in terms of like what figure would make you happy in terms of your income, right? And you said,
I thought from the business, if I was to sell it, about 5 to 10 million.
yeah, if you would sell your business for 5 to 10 million,
Yeah.
And then what did I say to you that made you think like, dude, where is this going?
Yeah, so it's like, okay, you run a company which is worth 10 million, but how much headache, how much stress comes with that? Whereas opposed if you just need, say, 5 grand a month, 10 grand a month, you're a lot less stressed. You're chilling basically, and you can live the life you want.
Yeah.
That really made, I went away and it really made me think, damn, I don't need to stress about stuff like that. I've already been through a lot of stress. I don't need to add more to it.
You think people get carried away with their ambitions and fail to see the consequences of what is involved to get to that point?
Yeah. But a perfect example is many years ago, I used to work in recruitment, and I was speaking to a CEO. He was on about 170 grand a year. He quit his job to move to Australia and teach surfing for about 15 grand a year.
Wow.
And from I couldn't understand that. I was like, you leave all that money, but as you get older, you think, what a dude, you know? Yeah, he's living his life.
So lifestyle over income.
Yeah. We all need money to live. You know, it's. I want to be. We all want to go into a shop without having to look at the label.
Yeah.
Right? Can I afford this? You know, just to have options.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the plan.
And I think that is very true, right? Everyone's always looking for promotion till they realize what's involved in that promotion and realize how much they want to strip from you, whether if you work for a company, right? Or we all want to take our business to the next level and bring in monumental more clients to realize actually like the workload that's required to look after those more clients. And then suddenly your boy wants to play basketball out in the garage and you can't yet because you're still trying to figure out the systems, and you're just like, that's the sacrifice. And that, I don't want him remembering that, which is why I was very much the same. I was always about like, oh yeah, I just want to secure like high income. I want to make sure that like my kids are sorted. I want to make sure that, and actually I could get run over by a fucking bus tomorrow and actually put all my time in the wrong place. And then actually, or I could keep going through that cycle of hustling, wake up and my kids are moving out and I've missed all of that opportunity to be with those kids. and spend that time and create those highlight reels and
Yeah.
lead by example, right? And then my boy would go and go, well, that's what dad did, so that's what I'm going out to do. Hustle, 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 ignore, and then suddenly you're getting divorced and there's no connection, right? And that's where we have to think about the bigger picture, right? We have to think more broadly. Like, it's not just a case of, oh, more promotion, oh, more money. It's a case of time, energy, focus, being pulled away from the most important things in our life, right? Which we obviously, everybody takes for granted until you're either left, or suddenly your kid says, I don't like hanging out with daddy, or I don't connect with daddy, or why is daddy never here? Why is daddy never put me to bed? Like, fucking hell, I think people got to wake up slowly.
Yeah. And the other issue that I have is being present in the moment, because I'm always thinking.
I'm holding up the mobile phone.
Yeah, so for me, it's it's the business, and if I'm there putting the kids to bed, it's always like kind of like rushed. It's always rushed, and like in stoicism, it's about, okay, so what if your kid doesn't wake up in the morning? How shit are you going to feel the fact that you rushed their bedtime routine? Yeah, we want them to go to sleep early and quickly so they're fresh for tomorrow. But still, even if it's just one story or an extra 2 minutes, them asking you questions because they don't want to go to bed, you know what? Just take that time out.
Yeah.
Take that time out.
Actually, I don't know if you read my post this morning. I'm reading about my favorite time of the day is always when I put Darcy down to bed and really on the chest for 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
Something incredibly magical about a 1.5-year-old falling asleep on your chest, listening to like Birdie. She loves Birdie.
Yeah.
And actually, what a lot of people don't realize is that that is magic time. Like, that is magic time. And I actually said that in my post, was that I always used to rush it because I just wanted to get downstairs and start the evening routine with the missus, right? And you want to chill out and you want to watch Stranger Things or FBI or whatever horse shit that you're watching. And I always sit there. I always sat there and went, I rushed that. I fucking, that's one night. That's another night that I missed an opportunity to connect. And a lot's changed since I was on holiday in the summer. And that was one of the non-negotiables for me, that I want to get back to doing my little jiu-jitsu with her, with the 5-year-old on the bed, doing our little routine.
Yeah.
I want to experience that. And I said, just like, bedtime's done when it's done, and then we'll have our time. Like,
yeah. It is, and I did read that this morning, and it made me think about me and the kids. Again, my little lad is 7, so we can still mess around, play fight. But there's something about him is like this morning when he woke up, I gave him a big hug, and when my head touches his head, it's that I get this transfer of energy, this real feel of good energy. Yeah. And I don't get that from a lot of people, but it is that. And I think there's going to be a time when they won't want a hug from you, or you can't pick them up anymore. So make this time count.
100%. You know, having a 15 and a 17-year-old has taught me massively about appreciating my 5 and 1-year-old, 1.5-year-old, because actually I miss that embrace, but they're so big now, they don't want to know me, right?
Yeah.
They do want to know me, but like, you know, I still have that connection with both of them. Like, when I cuddle, I can still feel there's real love there, but there's that youth, just that pure youthful energy that kids give us when we connect. Raj, this has been a great first story to have. If you were to give some advice to somebody in terms of helping somebody move forwards based on your own experience right now, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, what would that advice be for that stranger listening in right now, kind of just like stuck in a place, maybe not performing or showing up at the way that they should be, to move that individual forward? What would your experience tell them?
Gratitude, without a doubt. That's the number one thing that's got me through the last few years. I've been in my darkest times when I've wanted to give up, even like suicidal. That's something that I haven't mentioned, is that, you know, when I got my car, I literally put my foot down. I had the kids in the back, and I just thought, right, I want to reunite all of us together.
Oh my God, wow, that's strong.
Yeah, but I got up to about 120, 130 miles an hour. I thought, right, I can just go straight here. And then all I heard was Vera in the back saying, "Daddy, this is so cool." Woke up just like that, moved into the middle lane. Let's put the brakes on. I thought, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? So, but it's all about being grateful. I've been blessed to raise these three children. Her cards, what she was dealt with, I can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
So there's two things. One is be grateful for what you've got. It could be worse. And two, there are situations that you cannot control, but you can control how you feel about that situation. So manage your emotions.
Love it, mate. It's been a pleasure to have you on here.
Likewise, Shobi. Likewise, it's been good.
I think a lot of people will get a lot from it, from this first story, and like in about 10 years time, we'll probably be on story like nearly 5,000.
Yeah.
Always be story number one.
Number one.
Raj, thanks for being on, bro. Oh,
Thanks, Jim.
there's one thing I want to just bring up. You're writing a book, aren't you?
I am indeed, yeah.
Okay, so tell me very quickly about that book and what it's called.
So the book is about my journey with Nim's diagnosis, her death, and how we dealt with it. It's called Daddy, When's Mummy Coming Back? So on the cover, it's a picture of Viren when he was 3. It was in autumn, leaves in the back, wearing like a yellow jacket, holding a brolly, and he's looking somewhere. And I took a picture of it because I thought that's such a nice picture. He came running towards me and he goes, "Daddy, when's Mummy coming back?" And I looked over to see what he was looking at, and he's watching the other children saying bye to their mummy. Oh. And I just went on my knees and I hugged him. And again, I cried, but I tried to hide it. And that is what it's called, and that is what it's about. So it's going to be, I'll be sharing my thoughts, my tips, and what the children went through. And there's going to be bits in there where my eldest, Naveen, she's going to be writing in there as well.
Wow. It's going to be powerful. And I think it's going to help a lot of people that go through what you did, whether it's male or female or children, whatever. But I think like it really touched me when you told me about it Saturday. So I just wanted to make sure we squeeze that in as well and get that in there.
Yeah.
For sure. Raj, thanks, bro. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Shobi. No, thank you for the opportunity.